In the dying days of the Cretaceous period, when the earth trembled beneath the feet of giants, one creature stood as both guardian and warrior, a being of immense power and quiet intelligence, the Triceratops. The horned titan, with 3 spears upon its face and a shield of bone upon its neck, it was nature's answer to survival, an armored masterpiece forged by millions of years of evolution. The age of the dinosaurs was nearing its end, but this creature, the Triceratops, would become one of the final defenders of a fading world. 68 million years ago, what we now call North America was a vast and changing landscape. Swamps, floodplains, and forests stretching from horizon to horizon. It was here, in the western region of Laramidia, that the Triceratops roamed. Each step of this 7-ton colossus shook the ground, its head held low, ready for both feeding and defense. Its massive frill was unlike any other in the dinosaur kingdom. A living shield, built not only for protection but also for display, communication, and attraction. The 3 horns, 2 long and curved above the eyes, 1 shorter on the nose, were weapons of elegance and precision. In the sunlight they glistened like ancient ivory, worn by countless battles. The horned titan was not just a creature of strength, it was a creature of balance. Its world was full of danger, from predators, from hunger, from change. And yet, for nearly 2 million years, it thrived. Not because it was the most powerful, but because it was the most prepared. Triceratops could reach nearly 30 feet in length and weigh over 12,000 pounds. Its skull alone, a massive crown of bone and muscle, was more than 2 meters long. The great frill on the back of its head acted like a solar panel, regulating temperature and showing dominance. And those eyes, wide, amber, and intelligent, scanned the horizon for both food and danger. Unlike the massive carnivores of its time, Triceratops relied on intelligence and awareness. It was not a beast that attacked first, it was a strategist. Its mouth, shaped like a parrot's beak, could slice through tough plants and ferns, while hundreds of teeth deep inside its jaws worked like a grinding machine. Each bite was efficient, silent, methodical, ancient. Its tail swayed behind like a counterweight, giving balance to its heavily armored head. The entire body was built like a living fortress. Thick muscles, short but powerful legs, and skin textured like armor plates. Every part of this animal was designed for one thing: survival in a violent, unpredictable world. 66 million years ago, the Cretaceous world was ruled by 2 of the greatest giants to ever walk the earth, the Triceratops and the Tyrannosaurus rex. Their rivalry has become one of the most iconic battles in prehistoric history, a story of predator and prey, of power and survival. Though very different in nature, both creatures were masterpieces of evolution, perfectly adapted to their roles in a world where every day was a struggle to live another sunrise. The Triceratops was a massive herbivore, stretching up to 9 meters in length and weighing as much as 12 tons. Its body was built for defense. A wide, muscular frame supported a huge skull with 3 sharp horns, 2 above the eyes and 1 on the nose, and a bony frill that acted as a shield. These features were not only for protection but also for communication and display. The horns could be used to fight predators or even rivals during mating season, while the frill may have shown colors or patterns to signal dominance or readiness to mate. The Tyrannosaurus rex, by contrast, was pure offense. Standing over 4 meters tall at the hips and stretching nearly 13 meters long, it was one of the most powerful carnivores to ever exist. Its skull was built like a weapon. Heavy bones and strong muscles worked together to deliver one of the strongest bites in the animal kingdom. Each tooth, up to 20 centimeters long, was serrated and curved, designed to tear through flesh and crush bone. Unlike most predators, the T-Rex didn't just hunt. It could also scavenge, using its keen sense of smell to detect carcasses from miles away. Both creatures shared the same environment, the open plains and river valleys of what is now North America. The land was hot and lush, covered in thick vegetation and humid swamps. Herds of Triceratops roamed these regions, feeding on ferns and low-growing plants. The T-Rex followed, always watching, waiting for a moment of weakness. It was an endless game of strategy between 2 titans, the hunter and the defender. When a confrontation finally occurred, It was nothing short of explosive. A single encounter between a T-Rex and a full-grown Triceratops could determine life or death within seconds. The Triceratops relied on its strength and unity. Adults often formed defensive circles around the young, their horns facing outward like a living wall. The T-Rex, on the other hand, depended on speed, power, and precision. A single well-timed attack could cripple its opponent, but a single mistake could mean fatal injury. Fossil evidence suggests that these two creatures fought often. Paleontologists have discovered Triceratops skulls with puncture marks that match the size and shape of T-Rex teeth. In some cases, the bone shows signs of healing, proof that the Triceratops survived the attack. But other fossils tell a different story. Deep bite wounds, shattered ribs, and dislocated joints, silent records of ancient battles lost. It's likely that these clashes were not always about hunger. Some may have been territorial or even accidental. Two massive creatures crossing paths near a watering hole or open plain. But whenever they met, the outcome was the same: a contest of strength, intelligence, and instinct. The T-Rex had the advantage of agility and ferocity. The Triceratops had armor, discipline, and courage. In this balance, neither side truly dominated the other. In the fading light of the Cretaceous, these encounters became symbols of nature's raw design. They represented the eternal struggle between predator and prey, attack and defense, chaos and order. Each battle echoed across the plains. A roar, crash, the sound of horns against teeth. And though millions of years have passed since their final encounter, the image of the horned Titan facing the king of the dinosaurs remains one of the most powerful stories ever told by the stones of time. For the Triceratops, survival was not a solitary effort. Life in the late Cretaceous demanded unity, awareness, and strength in numbers. Unlike the lone predators that stalked the plains, Triceratops lived in herds, large family groups that moved, fed, and protected each other as one. Within these herds, every member had a role to play. The elders guided the group, remembering safe routes to water and fertile feeding grounds. The adults formed the outer wall of defense, always watching the horizon for movement or the scent of danger. The young stayed close to the center, learning by imitation and instinct. Life in the herd was a balance between safety and constant vigilance. Each day began with movement. As the morning sun rose over the prehistoric landscape, the herd spread across the plains to graze. Using their powerful beaks, Triceratops tore through low plants, ferns, and shrubs, consuming hundreds of pounds of vegetation in a single day. Their massive stomachs and complex digestive systems allowed them to break down tough plant fibers that few other creatures could eat. Where they walked, trails of trampled grass marked their passage. The sound of their slow, heavy steps mixed with the distant calls of other dinosaurs. The hum of a world alive and ancient. Communication played a vital role in herd life. Triceratops didn't rely only on sight or sound. They spoke through vibration and movement. A deep, low-frequency call could travel through the ground, felt by others miles away. Subtle shifts in body posture signaled alertness, irritation, or calm. When danger appeared, perhaps a shadow in the distance or the distant roar of a predator, the herd moved instantly, without hesitation, forming a living fortress. The frill, once thought to be only for defense, was also a tool for communication. Its patterns and coloration could have changed with emotion. Darker when threatened, brighter during display or mating. Males likely used their horns in ritual battles to establish dominance. These fights were rarely deadly. They were displays of strength and discipline. The clashing of horns, the scrape of bone against bone, and the deep rumble of their bellows echoed across the plains like thunder. Once a winner was decided, the loser would retreat and peace would return to the herd. Triceratops herds also cared for their young with remarkable coordination. Fossil evidence suggests that parents guarded nests and even helped guide the newly hatched toward food and shelter. The young were born small, with soft horns that hardened as they aged. They learned quickly how to graze, how to read signals from the adults, and most importantly, how to stay within the safety of the group. Any separation from the herd could mean certain death in a land filled with predators. Life in the Cretaceous was harsh and unpredictable. Storms swept across the plains and volcanic eruptions could darken the sky for days. Yet the Triceratops endured. Their strength lay not in speed or aggression, but in unity and resilience. When threatened, they stood together. When tired, they rested together. When the young were born, the entire herd ensured their survival. This cooperation was not only instinct, it was the secret to their success. Even the mighty Tyrannosaurus rex thought twice before attacking a full herd of Triceratops. A single adult could drive off a predator with a powerful charge, but an entire formation of horned giants was nearly unstoppable. Fossilized footprints show evidence of coordinated defense, adults forming semicircles while the young stayed protected behind. To face one Triceratops was dangerous. To face many was death. As the sun set over the late Cretaceous plains, the herd often gathered close, resting as the warm light turned gold and red across their frills. The sounds of the world quieted, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a flying reptile, the rhythmic breathing of giants. It was a rare moment of peace in an age ruled by chaos. To live in a herd was to live with purpose. Each heartbeat connected to another, each step guided by memory and instinct. Together they were more than survivors. They were a living wall of strength, intelligence, and loyalty. And though millions of years have passed since their last march across the earth, the story of the Triceratops herd remains a timeless lesson. In unity, there is power. 66 million years ago, the world of the dinosaurs stood at the edge of its greatest transformation. The late Cretaceous period, once warm, green, and full of life, began to change. The air grew heavier. Volcanic ash dimmed the sunlight. Seasons became unpredictable. Across the plains of what is now North America, herds of Triceratops continued their ancient routines, unaware that their age was drawing to a close. The warning signs came slowly. Plants that had fed the great herbivores began to disappear. The weather shifted from humid to dry, then back again. The nights grew colder, the rains less frequent. Herds moved farther and farther in search of food, but each year the journey became longer and more dangerous. Even the mighty predators, the Tyrannosaurus rex, the raptors, the great flying reptiles, began to struggle. The balance of life that had lasted for millions of years was beginning to break. Then came the moment that would end it all. One bright light crossed the sky, silent at first, then growing, faster than any storm, brighter than the sun itself, the asteroid. It struck the Earth with unimaginable force, somewhere near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. In seconds, the impact sent shockwaves across the entire planet. The ground tore apart. Mountains fell. Oceans rose in walls of water hundreds of meters high. For those who lived thousands of kilometers away, including the herds of Triceratops, the end came differently. A blinding flash filled the horizon, followed by winds stronger than any hurricane. Forests bent and snapped like grass. Firestorms swept across the land, consuming everything in their path. The air itself became deadly, filled with ash, smoke, and poison. The sunlight disappeared. In the days that followed, the planet changed beyond recognition. Temperatures dropped sharply. The sky remained dark, covered by a thick layer of ash that blocked the sun for months, maybe years. Without sunlight, plants withered and died. The herbivores starved first. Without them, the predators soon followed. The Cretaceous world, once filled with sound and movement, fell silent. Some herds may have survived the first weeks, seeking refuge in valleys or near rivers, protecting their young as they always had. But nature itself had turned against them. Food became scarce. The ground grew cold and hard. The mighty Triceratops, the horned titan of the plains, could no longer find enough to sustain its strength. The last of its kind likely fell quietly, surrounded by the same herd that had protected it all its life. And then, the earth went still. The age of the dinosaurs had ended. What remained was ash, bone, and silence. But extinction is not the same as erasure. The legacy of the Triceratops endured. Millions of years later, their bones would be found, perfectly preserved beneath the rock and soil. Each fossil told a fragment of their story, A tooth mark, a broken horn, a healed wound. A record of courage written in stone. Scientists would one day piece these fragments together, recreating the image of a creature that had once stood as both guardian and survivor. In the quiet halls of museums, its skeleton would rise again. 3 horns, broad frill, heavy frame. A symbol of a world that once was. Children would stand before it, eyes wide with wonder, imagining a time when giants walked the earth. And though the real Triceratops vanished millions of years ago, its spirit remains, a reminder of endurance, strength, and the fragile beauty of life on this planet. The final sunset of the Cretaceous was not just the end of an era, it was the beginning of a new one. From the ashes of extinction would rise mammals, birds, and eventually, humankind. But long before any of us took our first steps, the Triceratops had already written its story, a story of defense, loyalty, and survival against impossible odds. And as the light faded on that last day, somewhere across the ancient plains, a herd stood together one final time, horns raised toward a darkening sky. The world they knew was ending, but their legacy, the spirit of the horned titan, would live forever. Millions of years have passed since the last Triceratops walked the earth. The plains where they once roamed are now buried beneath mountains, rivers, and cities. Yet their story was never lost. Hidden deep beneath layers of rock and time, their bones remained, waiting to be found. When the first fossils of Triceratops were uncovered in the late 19th century, they shocked the world. Gigantic horns, a wide frill, and bones larger than any living creature. It was as if a myth had stepped out of stone. Scientists named it Triceratops horridus, the 3-horned face. What they didn't realize then was that they had rediscovered one of Earth's greatest defenders. Over time, paleontologists uncovered more and more of these fossils, from Wyoming, Montana, and the Dakotas, slowly piecing together the image of a creature both fearsome and noble. Museums raised its skeletons toward the ceiling, its horns aimed at eternity, and for the first time in 66 million years, the horned titan stood tall once again. The Triceratops became more than a fossil. It became a symbol. Artists painted it in battle with the Tyrannosaurus rex. Scientists studied its bones to understand evolution, and storytellers reimagined it in books and films. Children whispered its name before they could even say dinosaur. It represented courage, loyalty, and the strength to stand your ground even in the face of extinction. But its legacy runs deeper than science or art. The Triceratops reminds us that life on Earth is fragile and powerful at the same time. It teaches that survival is not just about aggression or dominance, but about balance, cooperation, and resilience. For millions of years, these creatures thrived not because they conquered others, but because they stood together. In a world full of predators, Triceratops chose unity over chaos, defense over destruction. And in doing so, it left behind a message that still resonates today, that true strength lies not in the strike, but in the stand. Every fossil we uncover is a voice from that ancient time. The grooves on its bones, the healed wounds, the marks of its horns, all tell the same story. They lived, they fought, they endured. Even in death, they protected one another. Today, the horned titan lives on in our imagination. In classrooms, in films, in the minds of children who dream of walking beside giants. Its form may have turned to stone, but its story continues to breathe, carried forward by human curiosity and wonder. The Earth remembers them, not as monsters but as symbols of balance. Their time has ended, but their lesson remains, that even in extinction there can be legacy. Even in silence, there can be strength. So when you look upon the skull of a Triceratops, the scars on its horns, the curve of its frill, you're not just seeing a fossil, you're seeing the story of endurance, the mark of an age when life was tested by fire and still found a way to rise. The horned titan may have fallen to the ashes of time, but its spirit stands eternal, a monument to courage, unity, and the unstoppable force of life itself. The age of giants has ended. The roars that once shook the earth are now only whispers carried by the wind. Yet the memory of the horned titan remains, silent, powerful, eternal. From the ashes of extinction came new life. The world changed, reshaped by time, by storms, by survival itself. But deep beneath the ground, in every layer of stone, the past still breathes. It waits untouched to be remembered. Every fossil unearthed, every horn uncovered is more than history. It's a message. A reminder that nothing truly disappears. That courage, unity, and life itself always find a way to endure. The Triceratops may have vanished from the earth, but its legacy stands forever. In science, in art, in the hearts of those who still dream of a time when giants walked the land. And as the final light fades over the ancient horizon, one truth remains. The titans never truly died. They live on in stone, in memory, and in us.